first tip is, if you've watched a lot of my back videos, you've probably heard me say the phrase elbows and angles. I feel like when you're training your back, that's like the number one thing you got to be aware of. Which way are elbows traveling? Are they going this way? Are they going this way? What are they doing? Because that's going to determine, in large part, what part of your back's being worked. So if your elbows are in tight, probably going to work your lats a little bit more. If your elbows are up here, you're probably going to work your traps, your rhomboids, your rear delts a little bit more. So that's going to be key in determining what part of your back you're working. So that simple awareness of the angle. So I said angles, the other part is your elbows. What you see when you see a lot of people do their back is it almost turns into a bicep exercise. What I want you to think about when you're training with your back, any kind of row you're doing, a chin, a pull down, no matter what it is, think about just moving your elbows. Don't think about pulling with your bicep. Just think about, and you can even let your hand just hang there. Just think about driving your elbow. If you think about just driving your elbow, you'll get a lot of tension in your back. But if you're sitting there and you're just pulling with your arms, you don't really get a lot in your back. It sounds simple, but how many people really do that? How many people really think, okay, I'm just going to move my elbows and create tension in my lats? I mean, when you get really good at that, that's one of the best things you can possibly do for your back. And it doesn't matter what exercises you're doing. So you could have 8 exercises that you love that are perfect. But if you don't conquer that tip, that just drawing your elbow back and really using your lats or your rhomboids and traps, whatever you're trying to work, you'll really hold yourself back. It's not just picking the right exercises, it's really understanding that very basic fundamental principle of execution. Number 2 is another really basic tip, and it's your posture. As I watch people train back, I see them lose their posture. They get this concave round look to their chest. So for example, maybe they're doing pull downs. What I would like to see is I would like to see your chest up and you would have good posture. So you can, again, remember that first tip? Drive your elbows. So something like this. But what do you see? You see people doing this, hunching over, pulling with their bicep. And when they start doing that hunching, they've already lost a tremendous amount of tension in their back. Your posture should be just good posture. Like, you don't need to overarch. Just pick your sternum up right here and then drive with your elbows. Whether you're doing this or this. And the same thing is true if you're doing a row. Like, let's say you're here on the row. Imagine I'm doing a row right here, real heavy. Imagine I got the whole stack on there. Now, you can pull like this if you want, which would be more biceps, but I'd rather you have good posture. So chest up, lead with your elbows, and draw them in. Like that, as opposed to like this. So if you catch yourself losing your posture, you're going to lose, you're not training your back as effectively. Tip number 1, elbows and angles. Tip number 2, good posture. Just those basic things right there are going to take you a long way in your back training. Tip number 3 is using an extreme range of motion, full range of motion, almost extreme range of motion. I feel like most people doing their back, whether it's a pull down or a row, they don't really do any sets, and you don't have to do all your sets with this extreme range of motion. In fact, I would say to not do that. You get a lot of blood in your back and then do an extreme range of motion. But one of the things that I really think helped my back through the years was incorporating this extreme range of motion concept. What that means simply is just when you have blood in your back, so let's say you've done 2 exercises. Normally this would be maybe your 3rd exercise. Whatever exercise you're doing, you just use an extreme range of motion. So one example would be like a supported row. So normally, God, this thing's heavy. Normally you might do it like this. So with the extreme range of motion, you're going all the way down, really stretching, and then coming up all the way down. Let's say you're on a pull down. Let's say you're doing a 1-arm pull down. Normally when I have people do these, they're driving down right here. But if you want to incorporate an extreme range of motion, let it come up and stretch it all the way up. Drive down all the way up. It's not going to be, again, it's not going to be the first exercise you do, but it will be like 3rd. So it's a row, any row or pull down that you do, those are the 2 types of exercises that you want to incorporate this principle. But there's something about that extreme stretch, training that muscle when it's stretched out, lengthened, that I think is really beneficial. Let me say this again though, I would not start with this.